Kila ward tunatafuta vijana.
Is Ruto the most hated Kenyan president? For a man who garnered favor amongst a diverse range of Kenyans, President William Ruto is at a loss at how he became so unpopular within a very short time. Ruto, who served for 2 terms under President Uhuru Kenyatta, was the darling of many. His meetings were attended by all and sundry, and his bottom-up economic approach, popularly christened the hustler narrative, was his clarion call.
To your bottom-up, wawache tu ku criticize. Tafuteni an alternative. It is not enough to criticize the bottom-up approach.
Today, President Ruto struggles with low popularity, stiff opposition from his impeached former deputy, rising cost of living, and a resurgent Gen Z that seems to want nothing than to see him fall. But how did he get here? He rose from the dusty plains of Sugoi to the highest office in the land, a self-proclaimed commoner and hustler who promised a bottom-up revolution and swore to empower the common mwananchi. But barely 3 years later, the mood has shifted. Kenyans are angry. Online, hashtags trend daily. On the streets, chants of discontent echo in the towns across the country. Some say he is the most misunderstood leader. Others call him the most hated president in Kenya's history. How did the dream of transformation become a nightmare of taxation and frustration? Why is a man once hailed as a political genius now viewed by many as a face of betrayal? Is this political heat just the price of reform, or is something deeper happening in the hearts and homes of ordinary Kenyans?
Of allegiance of the office of president.
This is not just a political documentary. This is a national mirror, a story of promise, power, and protest. This is the untold truth behind the question: is President William Ruto the most hated leader Kenya has ever had? To understand the public rage, you must first understand the man who once captured the hopes of millions. William Samoei Ruto was not born into power. He was born into poverty and into hustle. From selling chicken by the roadside to speaking from the podium of State House, his story became the very symbol of possibility. But Ruto's ambition ran deeper than the gospel. His entry into national politics came through Youth for KANU 92, a controversial campaign machine that shaped his ruthless and strategic age. In 1997, he shocked the establishment by defeating a seasoned politician to become Member of Parliament for Eldoret North. By 2002, he was part of a cabinet. By 2007, a kingmaker.
We have been consulting and we are continuing to consult.
His alliance with Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013 would change his destiny. Together, they withered ICC charges, rose to power, and ruled for 2 terms. But behind the scenes, tension simmered. In 2018, the famous handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga pushed Ruto to the political periphery. He became the outsider, the rebel within government, but also the man of the people.
Wachana na William Ruto. I supported you when you needed a man to support you. If you do not want to support me, leave me alone.
He reinvented himself as the champion of the downtrodden, the hustler, fighting dynasties. The 2022 presidential election became a battle of class, not just politics. And against all odds, Ruto won.
It is not enough to criticize the bottom-up approach. You need to come up with your own. Ama ni aje jameni? Tuko pamoja?
It was a historic victory. The first time a sitting deputy president defied the incumbent and won. But behind the cheers, deep divisions were already brewing. What followed next would test the weight of the campaign promises and the patience of the people who believed in them. The honeymoon was short. As the dust of the 2022 election settled, the realities of leadership began to bite, and with them came the first cracks in public trust. Barely months into office, fuel prices shot through the roof. The cost of living became unbearable. Maize flour, unga, remained high. Electricity bill climbed. Water scarcity worsened. For many Kenyans, life under Ruto became harder than ever before. And this time, the pain didn't just belong to one class. It was felt in the villages, to the towns, and across social media.
We are going to double that money, the 350 billion. We are going to double that money in 4 short years. And in a very short while, maybe 10, 15 years, we would not need to borrow from elsewhere. We can borrow our own money as Kenyans.
The hustler who had vowed to end reckless borrowing was now borrowing at record levels. His critics called it hypocrisy. His defenders called it hard choices. Meanwhile, a growing number of Kenyans watched in disbelief as lavish spending continued in government. Presidential convoys grew longer. Cabinet secretary flew first class. Political allies were rewarded with plum positions. But nothing ignited public anger like the finance bill. Proposed taxes on essential goods, digital services, and even housing were seen as cruel, especially in a struggling economy. Young Kenyans who once laughed at politics were now marching. Their slogans were not tribal. Their fury was not partisan, it was national. To many, it felt like betrayal. The man who promised relief had brought pressure. The man who preached inclusion had grown distant, and the people who voted for him started turning against him. Is this just public frustration with a struggling economy, or has something deeper taken root? To many young Kenyans, Ruto represents more than just a president. He represents the broken promises of the future, a system that feels rigged, an economy that doesn't listen, a government that demands before it gives. Social media has become the battleground and the barometer of his approval. And what once were jokes, memes, and criticism are now boiling into rage. Many of those marching today were not political foot soldiers. They were students, workers, creatives, first-time protesters. They weren't doing it for Raila Odinga or for tribal loyalty. They were doing it for survival. But while one side chants for his resignation, another side calls him the anointed one. His close alliance with the church has created both a shield and a source of tension. To many, he is too close to the pulpit. To others, he is their divine hope. Supporters of the president say he is doing the hard work no one else dared. They argue that the bitter medicine of taxation is necessary, that the country was already sick when he took over. So where does the hate come from? Is it policy or personality, mismanagement or misinformation, or is it simply the weight of crushed expectations? The answers are as complex as the country itself, and in a polarized Kenya, the line between accountability and animosity is often thin and shifting. To ask if Ruto is the most hated president in Kenya's history is to ask how he measures against those who came before him, because hate is not new in Kenyan politics, nor is it a disappointment. Daniel Arap Moi ruled Kenya for 24 years, feared more than hated. His regime was marked by detentions, disappearance, and dread. Few dared protest. Many suffered in silence. But even then, a resistance formed, and Moi's final years were met with growing public frustration until he left office in 2002.
Arap Moi, na nitaitumikia Kenya kwa moyo wangu wote, na kwamba nitaihifadhi, nitailinda na kutetea katiba ya Kenya kwa mujibu wa sheria iliyowekwa. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu msaidie.
Mwai Kibaki's rise was celebrated as a new dawn. He was the calm economist, the gentleman president. Yet by 2007, after broken promises on the constitution and allegation of electoral fraud, his legacy was stained by post-election violence that left more than 1,000 people dead. Uhuru Kenyatta enjoyed early praise, especially for major infrastructure projects, but soon his government was accused of ballooning debt, elite favoritism, and a growing discontent from ordinary Kenyans. By 2021, many viewed him as a face of economic betrayal.
Afadhali ukweli badala ya uongo, because the truth shall always set you free.
Each president faced public backlash. Each was at some point booed, doubted, or demonized. But what makes Ruto's moment unique is the voice of the people today, louder, younger, and angrier. Unlike in Moi's era, today's generation doesn't whisper, they tweet, they record, they march, they mock power with memes and resist it with placards. It's not just political opposition, it's digital defiance. So, is Ruto hated more, or is today Kenyan simply freer to express their fury?
Mali hapa siku ili niheshimiwe, yanani kutema shaka sawa sawa na